quick intro, and then all right, everybody, the long-awaited return to Mike's movie podcast featuring Evan with special guest Adam. And today we are talking about a important movie, which of course, thank you very much, Virtuosity, with that looks like a laser disc to go along with a cassette tape that we had. And I know, and many times over the podcast, I have mentioned my affinity for Brett Leonard movies. So a long overdue discussion of Virtuosity, which of course is an important Brett Leonard film, although one of the few that he directed. And having recently watched Lawnmower Man, I think you could make an argument that this is almost like a sequel to that movie as well. And Adam is currently upside down.
Okay, there we go. That's better.
Oh, what you were doing there? It's like when the beginning of the movie when they have that neural overload and their like brains explode and they die. That's like what you were doing.
Also, by the way, this is the soundtrack, double LP, not a laserdisc.
Oh, and it's a wonderful soundtrack. It includes every genre you could ever ask for.
It's actually absolute dog shit soundtrack. I don't know why I own it on vinyl and cassette. I think just because I like the movie. So I see the movie and I see a price tag that's cheap and I just get it.
Yeah, it is one of the most eclectic soundtracks. It's got cool jazz.
Not on the actual soundtrack. In the movie, it does.
Oh, well, I don't know what's on the soundtrack then.
Well, there's some Peter Gabriel on the soundtrack too.
Well,
for the credits.
Yeah.
The World Beaters featuring Peter Gabriel, a song called Party Man.
I don't like Peter Gabriel. And now that you just told me that, I dislike him even more because Party Man is a song by Prince and it's one of the best songs ever written. And we're just going to leave that there.
The most important artist on the soundtrack who has a cameo singing the song is, of course, Miss Tracy Lords. Because she is just singing over a Juno Reactor song, but it doesn't get credited that way. It just says Fallen Angel by Tracy Lords, but Fallen Angel is the name of the Juno Reactor song she's just singing over. And then they get a separate one of their own tracks off the same album, Samurai, later on the album.
So should we indulge our 7 listeners just a wee bit and tell them, so like, what are we doing? We watched the movie Virtuosity.
Yeah.
Right? Denzel Washington. Pro.
Yeah. That's right. We also, have William Fichtner's also in there.
And William Forsythe. Almost all 3 of the Holy Trinity of William character actors. The only missing one is Sadler. You got Fichtner and Forsythe.
Yeah.
And the woman from Curly Sue.
Ooh, she's the worst part of the movie.
Who else is in this movie too? Also, Kaylee Cuoco from Big Bang Theory. Also is the daughter.
Who is that? Who is she in this movie?
She's the daughter.
So actually, I only have 2 things to say about this movie, and then I'm gonna just let you guys talk for the rest of the show. But like for the first thing I want to say is, so this often happens when I watch movies that I really like. In fact, it happens like every other time I watch a movie, period. But it really happened big time for me when I watched Virtuosity last night, which is that I have the sensation of like, I look at the main character and I'm just sort of like, oh, that's me. And so this one.
Or for Russell Crowe?
Russell Crowe, of course. So Russell Crowe.
The villain, not the main character.
He is the main character. So that's the other thing I want to say. What I loved about this movie the most, and I also, it was one of those things where it's like, how the fuck did I not see this? How did this just sit there for 25 years? And it's helping to form what is in my head a very niche Adam Higgins genre of film that's like mid-90s cyber thriller. Mm-hmm. And there are like 10 movies in this genre. Yeah. And Adam probably has memorized the scripts of all of them.
Well, Evan, I'm going to want to jump in real quick. Have you listened to the Johnny Mnemonic podcast yet?
No, and I haven't seen Johnny Mnemonic. Johnny Yo Mama is on my list for next week, but there's also like the Lawnmower Man's, Ghost in the Machine, Adam probably knows some other ones, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Here's the thing, though, about this movie. What makes it funny and special? There are parts of it to me that seem, and I just shared this with somebody else I was talking to. It seems like Tim Heidecker made it and was making fun of something, like it was an episode of Decker or something like that. There are lots of scenes that kind of suggest that vibe. So there are lots of things about the movie that are just kind of funny and crappy in a beautiful way. However, there's also like Denzel Washington sitting there, like just doing his thing, which to me seems like totally out of place to have like a really talented Oscar man doing Oscar stuff and having an Oscar character development.
I don't know if he's doing Oscar stuff, but he is taking the movie too seriously.
He's taking the movie too seriously. Like, what's he even doing there? I mean, he's good. He does a good job in the movie. It's just sort of like, yeah, why did they hire him? Meanwhile, Russell Crowe is like overacting to the extreme, clearly trying to like prove something by doing Jim Carrey impersonations. And
he's having a time. He's doing what he should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's amazing. I mean, it's just an amazing character. Anyway, that's all I want to say.
No, well, it's no, I agree. I mean, Russell Crowe was great, perfect in it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like John Travolta and Nicolas Cage in Face Off. Just
sure.
Having fun bodying the character. I'll say before I forget, there is one of my favorite lines in the movie is when Sid 6.7 comes into the real world, and then he cuts his finger off, and then he licks his finger, and he says, "It was a good year." Yeah,
good year. Yeah. See, that's one of the Tim and Eric. That's like That's just like.
Yeah, I would say what I feel like you're talking about with the Tim and Eric stuff is just that it's ridiculous, and it's like willfully ridiculous.
Yes,
and that's the thing is, Virtuosity in particular is a rare, like, big budget Hollywood A-list version of this kind of like, ridiculous movie that it's extra funny when you have like all this expensive production and serious stuff but to me, it's not that, Tim and Eric are inspired by shit that's ridiculous, but like that's why I like it. And the thing is, you're 100% right. Like half the cast thinks they're in a real movie and they're wrong. I'm trying to think of who besides Russell Crowe understands that they're in Virtuosity in the movie. Because even like William Forsythe and William Fichtner are like doing a really serious job. Actually, you know what? The guy that plays the programmer who created 6.7, he knows. He is also straight up doing a Hannibal Lecter voice, which is funny because Silence of the Lambs is one of the like various successful movies that's in the mix here, because like it's about like a killer in prison getting brought out or used by a psychologist to track down another serial killer. And
but like, see, I appreciate that you made that connection. I think of this as these like kind of like slappy kid picks, like.
But that's what I'm saying. The movies like that are doing the lazy thing, which is they're just stealing from other successful movies. Because like, what I was thinking of it most is when the scene Mike was just talking about, the start of it, when Sid 6.7 is born, it's basically naked Terminator man coming out of an alien egg. And then they give Denzel Washington the Escape from New York deal, put a Total Recall tracker in his head. And then it's basically Lawnmower Man meets Silence of the Lambs, because like the computer becoming self-aware as Lawnmower Man and tracking down the serial killer who's like taunting and playing psychological games with the other killer. Which reminds me, one question I have, what is Denzel in prison for?
He killed some civilians.
But who? They show the flashback and he kills like henchmen with guns.
No, but he also accidentally, remember he told the civilian camera people to stay down, and then they kind of popped up at the very end, and in his frenzied rage, he shot them too. That's why
I remember that scene, and I don't remember seeing him kill those people. But also, he's in jail for like 20 years.
Yeah, he killed civilians.
What a sci-fi fantasy that a cop arrested for a killing serves time in prison.
Yeah, well, this is Yeah, the scene where when he kills the reporter and the cameraman, that's like a fraction of a second where that's not on screen. But this predates it, but he does get a little bit of the Con Air Cameron Poe prison sentence, which I would say would be a bit excessive, if not entirely unnecessary.
Come on, yeah, give the police a break. They're doing their jobs.
Yeah.
Lives matter.
And here's another question, though. As long as we're like talking just like references, left and right here, his metal arm that predates the Jax character from Mortal Kombat, right?
No, it doesn't predate it.
Because this movie is definitely only ripping other things off. Anything that reminds you of something else, this movie probably took it from that.
Okay, and I need to restrain myself with the references, but there is one that I did want to discuss, and that is so has everybody here seen Snowpiercer?
Of course, there's a new TV show of it that people at work.
I have not seen any of that. I've only seen the movie. But as we know, at the very end of the movie, there is a reveal where like the train's kind of broken, so they always need to have a small kid basically to function as a piece of machinery. And then what happens is Chris Evans, he sticks his arm down there so he can like stop the rotating blade and rescue the kid. And of course, that's basically exactly what happens at the end of this movie, which begs the question if Snowpiercer was directly inspired by Virtuosity. And
I don't remember that part of Snowpiercer, but that sounds exactly it.
Yeah.
I don't remember that part of Snowpiercer, but I was angry that they established that he has that metal arm and it's just for him to stick his arm at the end. There's like no reason for him to have that metal arm.
Never show the metal. Yeah.
But in Snowpiercer, Chris Evans doesn't have a special arm. Chris Evans must just put his real arm in the blade. Is that right, Mike? I don't remember.
He sure does. That's exactly what he does.
So that's what I'm saying. Why does Denzel need a metal arm to do it? If Chris Evans could do it.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Stand up, Denzel, and stick your real arm down there.
Yeah. What he should have done is he should have used his real arm.
Yeah, so at that point in the movie, I had forgotten about his cyber arm, and
because there's no purpose,
right?
Oh, and then he stops the bomb with it. He pulls a cord out to like use the modular synthesizer control.
I can just imagine like Denzel Washington like being told that or reading it in the script and being like, whatever, just give me my that is the most ridiculous fucking thing I've ever seen. I'm gonna take a plastic tube out of my metal arm and fix the bomb.
I will. I 100% agree. Kelly Lynch and that ending of the two downsides of the movie, which I otherwise think is great. I will say, I learned very recently listening to another movie podcast, The Projection Booth. They did an episode on the Roger Donaldson thriller White Sands, which is a great movie I like a lot. And they talked to the screenwriter, and that screenwriter didn't do that many other movies, but did a lot of script doctor work. And one of the movies he worked on was Virtuosity, because against Writers Guild regulations, Denzel hired him without telling him that the other writer who was credited on the movie was still working on the movie, just to like do character punch-ups for Denzel, which famously, this is one of the movies where Denzel was supposed to have a romance with Kelly Lynch, but Denzel is a big enough star that he says, she's white. Denzel doesn't have romance with white ladies in his movies. And
that's not what happened.
That is 100% what happened. You can read it, but this is corroborated through various sources. This is not the only movie where Denzel used his star clout to say, like, no, either you make that character black or I don't have a romance with that character. And apparently they thought Kelly Lynch was so good that they were like, no, we couldn't possibly have a black actress to make Denzel do the romance. So we'll keep Kelly Lynch. Because she's
is this the real thing? He doesn't want to be filmed with white women? I didn't know that.
Yeah, look it up. And this is a movie where he had them change the script. And you can tell, because there's a lot of scenes early on where they're setting up a romance that never happens. Because in the original script, there was totally a romance, because of course there's a romance.
Well, the movie, the one time this movie, I think, is an hour and 45. The one time this movie is a nice, lean 1 hour and 45 minutes, which, in my opinion, is kind of a sweet spot time. And I think the fact that there was no romance here, I think just kind of led to I think that improves the movie, because I mean I think that it's a lean, efficient motion picture.
Oh yeah, I don't want it. Denzel was great.
Mike's Movie Podcast Co. needs to hire an intern to go back and transcribe every episode of the show. And I would be willing to bet that in each episode, Mike is the one who always states the runtime of the movie. I have no point to make. I have no point.
Inquiring minds need to know.
It's just a statement of a fact. And related to, I want to just say, this made me think, it's like Denzel Washington being in this movie reminds me of, and I need Mike's help here. Mike, give me a sense where there's like an all-star, give me an example of an all-star, like top 5 basketball player. It's like LeBron James being on the Cleveland Cavs or something like that, right? Like you have an otherwise kind of like goofy, slapstick, like not having it together, shitty team. And then this guy just comes in. It's not that they're bad though. It's more just like, he is just completely separate from the rest of the movie. And what you just said, Adam, that rule that he has that I didn't know about, makes that even more clear. Like, why would he even want to be in this movie? It's not.
It sounded cool. He was like, virtual reality. I'm all about it.
And his character too is just like, he's like the smartest, best looking, best acting person in the movie. And you have all this other funny, cool shit going on that he's just sort of like, he's in another movie. He's doing his thing. It's just like too stupid. That to me is the funniest thing about this movie, is that it just has Denzel Washington. It'd be like as if it had like Robert De Niro just happened to be in the movie, but it's still a 90s. It's still something that seems like it shouldn't have even gone. Well, I won't say that. This was in the theaters, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah. And absolutely. And what I was going to say is, I think the core thing that about these cyber movies is, at the time, they thought this was going to be the next big thing, and they were just immediately wrong. And they only did it for like 3 years. But at the time, Denzel was like, oh yeah, Lawnmower Man, that was a big movie. Like, this guy seems like he knows what's up. This is the future. We got all these crazy effects, big budget. So I think that, like, in retrospect, it seems absurd that he is in it. But at the time, they were like, well, this is the future. You better get on board now, Denzel. And he was like, okay, no white women.
No, he's okay with white women.
But then why name a Denzel movie where he has a romance with a white woman?
Well, just because there isn't one doesn't mean that he wouldn't have a love scene with one in a movie. I was just grateful that they didn't develop that, because when you're left to just sort of remember the scene where he strokes her hand during the initial interview, is just sort of like, oh, he was horny. That's just what prisoners do, which is what I would prefer to think of it as, rather than like, oh, maybe she can fill the hole in my heart. Man, that would have sucked.
Yeah. I mean, he was right.
Yeah.
The prison thing reminds me of another thing I wanted to bring up. Another Denzel serial killer movie connection. The white power prison battle, very much like the white power prison battle in Ricochet. Denzel was like, man, I love that white power prison battle in Ricochet, but I want to be the guy doing the fighting, and I get to beat up the white power guy. And they were like, okay, Denzel. And also, the movie has so much elaborate, fancy production design, but then that prison scene, it's just like a long hallway of like silhouettes. It's like very stylized. It's like, it very specifically reminded me of the Pettin' in a Park musical number from Gold Diggers of 1933, the Busby Berkeley musical. Look it up. There's a scene with exactly those kind of silhouettes. It's not a prison fight scene because it's a Busby Berkeley musical, but the way that they did it, I like to imagine that Brett Leonard or someone involved was like, let's have the racist prison fight be referencing Gold Diggers of 1933.
Okay, so that was for all you real, movie nerds out there. This is the point in the show where,
even if you don't care, just look up the Pettin' in the Park musical number. It's really good. At the end, speaking of horny stuff, it's famous for early 1930s horniness because the women in the movie, the men keep trying to make out with the women because it's Pettin' in the Park, and then they try and foil the men. The women put on these like metallic Art Deco things that the men can't get their hands in, and then the men bust out giant can openers to pry the clothing off the women at the end.
Okay, what's the name of this movie again?
It's a
The movie's called
cartoon.
Gold Diggers of 1933, and the musical number is called Pettin' in the Park. Billy Barty, who plays Gweldor in Masters of the Universe, famous creepy-looking midget man, plays a creepy baby that's trying to like reveal the naked women throughout that sequence and various Busby Berkeley musical numbers.
Well, the movie's called Gold Diggers of 1933, but it was actually made in 1933. That's funny.
It's a pre-code,
clarifying.
sort of pre-code Hollywood. I'm just pulling up Wikipedia here. I am not sure what that means.
I didn't even know they made movies.
Oh my God. Okay, well, let's have Film School 101 for the podcast host. The Hays Code was a thing that started in the late 30s, early 40s. It's like when they started like having no sex and violence in movies. And if you go before that, they actually could have sex and violence in movies, and they started doing it too much, and all the squares decided to shut it down. And that's also when they started to have like the bad guys couldn't get away with it. Crime had to have punishment. No interracial romance, people in separate beds, even if they're married. That's the Hays Code, 40s, 50s shit.
I mean,
but if you go before that, things were a little more racy. And that's why people were like, this Hollywood stuff is mutating our children's mind.
This is why we bring Adam on the podcast, you know, but it's like, if you want that like academic, you know, very educated, contextualized take on the movies. Yeah. I mean, this is good, but like me, I go raw dog, you know, I'm just going straight in. I don't have all that education mumbo jumbo.
Well, then why did you, when you're going raw dog, why did you buy all those condoms on Amazon you were talking about?
Right, guys, we were going through my Amazon order history before the show started. I mean, you know, we had to, this was pre-show, not on the recording, of course, because we went way back. 20 years back to 16-year-old Evan. And yes, I did order condoms on Amazon because I didn't want people at the store to know that I was going to buy condoms, you know? Anyway.
Funniest time I've ever had buying condoms at a store was at CVS in Los Angeles, because no one likes to have that interaction. Even if you're not embarrassed, it's just kind of awkward. And so I was like, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to get a bunch of them so I don't have to come back here. So I had like multiple boxes, and the guy at the checkout, before he like had like visually engaged with me or my purchase, was like, how are you doing today, sir? And then I just pushed boxes of condoms, and he was like, oh, very well, I see.
Very well.
I said something like, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. This isn't a contract.
Yeah, Mike has a good condom story. You want to tell that story, Mike?
What is this blues camp?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that was yeah, that was I think at that time, I believe that was Blues Camp 2001. So I would have been 15.
Almost 16. Yeah.
15, almost 16 years old. And then what we did was, we were at a convenience store for whatever reason, and I decided to buy some condoms because you figure you can use those as a joke later on, which I sure did. Because what we did,
that's why all men get them. Anytime we're using condoms, it's a joke we're gonna do later.
Yeah, well, but this one came through because what we did was we took the condom out of the wrapper, we unfurled it, and then Evan, I believe, we like put it in your dad's bed.
I did?
Yeah.
That was a good idea. I don't remember doing that. What I do remember is, because we filmed this, we were talking about your, so just Mike told the story. There's a little bit I would add, which is that we bought them on a road trip down south to this blues camp where we were going to be in a dorm with a bunch of other men for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
There was no practical reason to be having condoms on that trip. There were no women around, and Mike and I weren't going to be getting laid anyway. So we were 15, 16, and we weren't that way.
That's right.
We stimulated each other through discussions like this. We didn't need any kind of sexual release.
Yeah, this is pornography. This should be regulated. So
we stop at a gas station, everybody's getting their snacks, and Mike picks up a 3-pack, classic red Trojan condoms, the Coca-Cola of condoms. And we have them in the room, and we're all making fun. And I said something like, Mike, don't kid yourself. We all know you're going to take one of those condoms home after this and try it on. And you started laughing in a way that indicated that I very well might have been right, and that's my richest memory. You had a nervous laugh, meaning like, yeah, I absolutely were gonna go try that. I mean, I definitely would have tried that.
You got to make sure you got the right fit. You don't want to actually need it. Find out it's too tight or too loose.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, fit is important if you want to use them as an effective prophylactic. At the time, I can tell you though, in buying the condom, is that at that age, so like 15 to 18, like you go into the stores, the convenience stores, and you have the I wouldn't quite say the forbidden fruit, but the stuff that's kind of like off limits. So like alcohol, cigarettes, lottery tickets. It's like you have maybe like a
beef jerky,
dirty magazine. It's stuff like, you're always there to get your Mountain Dews and your candy bars and maybe your bag of chips, but you have stuff that's readily available that like, this is off limits, you can't get it. And I remember at that time being like, condoms being in that category. So there was a certain thrill of of buying one of those items that I perceived to be kind of forbidden.
Oh, I still
now that you bring it up, the other things you list do have age restrictions on who they can sell them to, but I don't think there is for condoms. Like if a 5-year-old tries to buy condoms, there's no legal reason to not sell it to a 5-year-old, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
correct. But
so there you go. For all the 5-year-olds watching, feel free to buy a condom. Try it on. Make sure you got the right fit.
Well, see, it still sucks. I mean, I'm 35. I had to buy one of these fucking Plan B. You familiar with this? Yeah. So this is the point in the show where it's TMI, but
what's free? Vasectomies. Everybody get a vasectomy.
I can't tell you how many $48 Plan Bs I've had to buy.
Yeah. You know what's free with any health insurance? A vasectomy. Were you going to have kids? You going to have kids?
Listen, my penis is already mutilated enough from being circumcised.
Obviously not mutilated enough to not be having to buy Plan Bs.
It's not, that's the whole thing. It's not like I planned on needing to buy the Plan Bs. That's why they're called Plan B.
Because Plan A is get a vasectomy and you skip that part of the plan.
But your seed loses its potency, it makes you less virile. You get that vasectomy, it's just not.
But you don't want your seed to be potent. That's why you're getting the vasectomy.
The potency of the seed is part of the whole experience. There's a.
Oh, if that's what you think. I mean, this is what I was talking about the joke about how any reason a man buys a condom is some kind of a joke, whether it involves sexual intercourse or not.
You don't understand. My plan is to find like a 41-year-old entertainment lawyer, career woman who's like desperate to have a child before it's too late and has like, a really nice house with several hot tubs. I'm a 1 hot tub man now. I'm trying to get to the 2 hot tub level and provide whatever that person needs in order to no, I'm just kidding. There's still a chance that I might be a dad. And if I am.
Yeah. And you shouldn't do it.
Well, Adam, I can't wait till your little nieces and nephews sit on their Uncle Adam's lap. And then you tell me you're going to want to go back and get that.
Yeah, right.
First.
Uh-huh. How much you want to bet that ever happens?
None of that's ever going to happen.
I'll bet you all 3 hot.
$1 million. So you're right. I should probably get a vasectomy, but it's too much work.
Anyway. It's 5 times. It's free with any health insurance.
It is not free with any health insurance.
Yes, it is. It's a preventative procedure. Any health insurance company knows that's going to save them a lot of money.
But they're going to cut. No, I can't do it.
That's the real reason. We just got to the real reason was that face you just made.
Yep.
Oh, my precious, delicate balls. Keep them away from the sharp things. No, I guess it makes sense that people that feel compelled to unbuckle their belts to urinate to keep their balls away from the zipper.
Don't start with me. It's a simple debate. Listen.
Hey, we're talking about virtuosity here.
Yeah, I was thinking. Sometimes I'll say this. Sometimes what I feel like a bit on the show is kind of like '90s era Andy Richter on the Late Night with Conan O'Brien, where like Conan and the guests are having the show, and I'm just like kind of sitting off screen,
Well,
Just
Adam and I have a lot to talk about when it comes to
Penis.
denial.
if you want to have, if you want to have, Evan's Men's Health podcast featuring Adam, you're welcome to do that.
Well, men's health
Yeah,
is important.
Mike, you got to interject. Regulate here, Mike. Take some charge, Captain.
Yeah, Mike. What
Should we talk about? Guide the discussion.
Yeah, well, you just mentioned it. We were talking about virtuosity here. Again,
let's remind ourselves.
We talked about it already. I mean, there's not that much to say. It's a great movie. It's,
yeah. Now, if you wanted to talk about pets, you should have called last week. Yeah.
That is one of my favorite things.
Yeah. With Virtuosity, something I wanted to discuss about this as well is one of the scenes. They go to the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and they are in the octagon there in the crowd. And I believe the name of the song being played, I think it's called Kapow.
Yeah, I wrote down, what is this chant they're doing that they all know the like syncopated, because like it's not the same every time. It'll be like kapow, 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 kapow. Is that a thing that you're familiar with?
I have never heard that before, and it did remind me a little bit. So the comparison here is just kind of the general the ritual to it, just the general randomness of it. It did remind me a little bit in Cobra, when you have like the gang, they're just like clink, like they have the axes that they're just like clinking together.
But even that is like a very steady dun 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 dun. The kapow one is weirder because it'll be like kapow, 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 kapow. That's like got a little funkiness to it. That the Cobra one is just like dun dun.
Yeah, but they're both good. They're both good, and they're both. I'm happy that they exist, and I had the chance to experience them. Now, in terms of the pace of this, so people know me as a sports guy. Evan's the music guy. So let's talk a little bit about time signatures for a second. So what was the time signature of that Kapow song?
Probably standard time.
Are you sure it wasn't some Rush 5/7?
No, I think it's 4/4. They're just throwing some triplets in there.
That's probably right. I wasn't paying much attention to the sound because it's funny that whole Olympic Stadium scene is my favorite part of the movie. My favorite.
Oh, way. When he goes to the club and makes them do the Scream Symphony is hands down the best part.
That's a close second or third. But the reason I like the Olympic Stadium scene the best is the one part where like they keep showing this classically beautiful looking woman prior to him entering the stadium, and you just know something's going to happen with her, and like my brain starts going like, ooh, okay, what's going to go on? And this is where the movie, like, I was already enjoying the hell out of it and just like having a good time in my bed laughing and eating Dominoes. That's literally what was going on. And we start getting to that scene and I'm like, oh boy, I like this. I like where this is going. And they just like totally execute. Like the movie just perfectly delivers. And so the scene where he just like gets Russell Crowe, finds that woman, gets up behind her, he says something like, I'm going to make you a star, right before he licks her. That's the best part of the movie. And then he gets.
I was mad though that they cop out and he doesn't kill her. He's about to kill her. He's like, "This one's for you, Parker."
And then doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because right after that he gets his hand blown off. It's just a perfect scene. Like that's just, he licks the woman, he gets his hand blown off, and then he like gets in the center of the ring. I just, anyway, personally.
Well, yeah, and like he like the boyfriend or whoever she's with also gets thrown over off the balcony.
That's right. That's right.
So
that definitely
that's the other part. That was a Chekhov's gun thing. You don't introduce the balcony in the first act unless somebody's going to be thrown off in the third act.
You guys are way too enlightened for me.
That's how. No, that was I'm right there with you. The movie, they had so many great like setup and execution. So like the scene immediately preceding that, when they're in the mall and like Sid is turning on all the TVs and the other guy like keeps on like putting the UFC, and then like he breaks his neck. I mean, that's just a good delivery there. So
Is it UFC? I mean, what the hell is that? Like,
It's
what?
some made up shit. They show it on signs and it's some made up shit because they didn't want to pay for real shit.
Yeah.
I forget what it is, but they do show a logo and it's not a logo I've ever seen before.
And that made me ask some other questions about the movie, which is like, okay, well, so this, it seems like, yeah, they are trying to steal some Total Recall, Escape from New York, Escape from LA type shit in this movie, but it's not actually set in the future, right? Like this is a present day movie.
No, I don't know if they say a year, but it's definitely the future. You're not supposed to be like,
so the reason I know that is because like when you're toward the end where Denzel Washington is in the graveyard looking at his kids' graves, the kid and the wife had died in 1994.
Yeah. So yeah, I think so. What we don't know, what's unclear, is
how long
long.
he's in prison.
That's right. How
Right.
long he's been in prison. So I
But
think
it
it's
couldn't have been
20 years.
It couldn't have been that long because remember his partner doesn't look very old, right? The guy with the mustache who's in Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo, and he
Yeah.
looks exactly the same in that movie as he does in this movie, which is another reason why it's Tim and Eric. But anyway,
Well, but I think just to piece it together though, because I think that in the scene when when Denzel Washington kills the people, I think that his hair is shaved and
okay,
early in the movie it's fairly long. So
Fairly
it seems
long.
like he's probably been in prison for, I don't know, like 2 or 3 years at that
Yep.
point.
Definitely. So it's like
I bet it's supposed to be like 1997 and it came out in 95.
Okay,
And they're
fine.
like, things are really ramping up.
Even if that's the case, okay, well, yeah, because like I was wondering, like, what is this scene in the Olympic Stadium? Is this supposed to be like the future of organized sports? Is this some random post-apocalyptic battle royale? What is going on? Why are there just people fighting all over the stadium, including in the stands? Again, an unanswered question, and I think it's better left that way. But a good.
I think people are fighting in the stands because he's throwing people and there's just kind of chaos ensuing from him being there. I don't think people would have been fighting in the stands if the UFC thing had gone as planned. I think Sid 6.7's chaotic Joker stuff had set people off in the stands.
And it's just some random made up combat sport thing that happens to be popular enough that they can fill the Olympic Stadium with. Yeah, okay. It's like that's one of those things that make the movie like a true nugget to me.
Yeah, the only thing missing from that scene was a Joe Rogan cameo.
Oh!
Only thing missing from most movies. You know, I got excited when Mike said, when you held up the vinyl for the soundtrack and Mike said it was a Laserdisc. If you really did have this on Laserdisc, I would be I want to watch this movie on Laserdisc.
Fine.
It just seems like if you're gonna watch Laserdiscs, this is the kind of shit you should be.
Oh, I see. It's like the just like the genre of cyber thriller. It was a format that people thought was the future that failed immediately and no one cares about anymore. Yes, that's true. That makes sense.
But you know, I remember watching like some educational videos in school on Laserdisc. You ever had that? I remember we had
educational. No, Grand Isle Elementary and Middle School had no Laserdisc player.
This was in high school. Peggy Hussett-Duros, biology teacher, she would play the biology movies on Laserdisc, which was pretty sweet. I'm gonna look up how much a Virtuosity Laserdisc would cost.
Whatever it says on the internet, people can't give them away at thrift stores.
$4.99. Yeah, you're right. It's just not expensive at all.
Wait, yeah, but does this movie exist on Laserdisc? Because I thought that Laserdisc had like 30 movies on it.
No.
Laserdisc had a lot of.
There is an abundance of them on eBay, as Adam just said. Yeah, they can give these away. A lot of other good ones too. Free Willy, Ransom.
Is there with you know, obviously we all know, everybody knows that Betamax has a superior quality than VHS. But is there any sort of like audio or visual benefit of getting a Laserdisc
compared to VHS?
Yeah,
debatably, yes.
Well, it depends on what your preference, right? I mean, it's like, yeah, if you're watching VHS because you like the specific qualities of analog tape and VHS, then no. But if it's purely about like resolution and clarity.
That's the thing. There is no direct comparison between analog resolution and digital resolution. There's no objective way to compare those two.
I will debate you all day on anything penis related, but I know better than to talk to even try to argue with you about stuff like this, because I'm sure you have done your homework.
But
And
in general, as a general rule, they were doing new transfers. So the transfer was probably at least higher quality. And the crucial thing that you could only get on Laserdisc, that was Laserdisc's big thing, is that was the first time you could have commentary tracks or like an isolated score track where you could have different audio with the same video. And that was a big deal. That's when Criterion Collection started, because they could have like director commentaries on your Laserdisc.
I'm looking into buying a Zenith Betamax programmable director, and the piece that I have on my screen has a sample beta tape sitting on the top of it. Mike, you'll be happy to hear it's Bridge on the River Kwai.
Okay.
Bridgie K from that special early pandemic saga of classic films.
Yeah.
We don't do that anymore, but it was
no, we don't. In fact, that does touch on something that I wanted to talk about. The theme of this discussion here that I'm going to start here is related to attention spans, because last night I was flipping through the old streaming options to watch something, and one that was suggested for me was the Daniel Radcliffe like Guns Akimbo movie.
Uh-huh.
Are you familiar with that one? As what I'm talking about, and because I've seen like the memes like of him like with the guns, like kind of a crazed look in his face outside, like on Reddit and whatnot. So I saw that and I'm like, oh, I know maybe this movie could be kind of fun. So I put it on, and about 15 minutes into it, I was not deriving any enjoyment whatsoever from the movie. So I stopped watching it.
I haven't seen it, but everyone whose opinion I go to on the internet for movies said it was horrible, which is why I never tried watching it, which would mean to me that it's not your attention span. It may just be a semi-objectively unenjoyable movie, because that seemed to be the consensus.
Well, that's exactly it. And that's exactly what I was going to say, because I was watching that movie, and at first I'm like, oh wow, is something wrong with me? Has my brain been routed by Twitter, and whatnot, to the extent that I can't even watch this movie? But then, I'm thinking about like, I sat through and I enjoyed Larry and Bennett, and those are like 4-hour movies. So it was, I think, just the quality of it. I want to say, just to give an epilogue to this one, what I did end up watching afterward was there, PBS, they have a series called the American Experience. And I was watching an episode about Ted Fujita, who of course is the scientist meteorologist who developed the Fujita scale for tornadoes, and that was quite interesting story. So I recommend that if you are enjoy weather, if you're a fan of the movie Twister, and you want to learn more about the origins of the Fujita scale, that would be one to watch.
I have a point about Twister I want to make, but I don't want to dominate.
Well, before you make that point about that, I want to say this is a possible teaser to our future Van Halen draft.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. You already stole my thunder. All right. Yeah. Van Halen brothers. That's what you're going to talk, right? They did the score.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll go ahead. I mean, listen, let me give you the thunder back.
No. I'd rather you have the thunder, or should I say the Twister?
Yeah. No, I was going to say
the name of the song though. There's like a really funny, shitty. Because the reason I thought about this is because Spotify recommended I listen. Like they make mixes for me. I don't know if you know this, but these like Spotify.
They're very special.
They have these special robots that will create a mix based on what you listen to. Anyway, they're all terrible, but. I'm trying to remember the name of the goddamn track, but it's an Eddie Van Halen.
Is it Humans Being?
No. Humans Being is a good song.
Okay, I was gonna say, because we were gonna have I know we were gonna have a long-awaited disagreement if you did not like the song Humans Being.
This is an instrumental track made by the two brothers.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah, I think that Humans Being is very much the last good Van Halen song.
You might be right about that.
This is my favorite part of the podcast. Two different people look things up online.
No,
Yeah.
but I know. I just need respect the wind. It's called respect the wind.
Yeah.
I know. Adam, you love it when we look it up. Well, IMDb, Wikipedia, they're there for you. They're
There's
like
so much
guests on,
information on the internet.
they're like guests on the podcast too. That's sort of what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll have to, yeah, I might have to listen to that one, but I would imagine it's like, Gary Sharon era Van Halen where they're taking a set break and
it's
Eddie
not like
decides-
you'd never know it was by the Van Halens, except for a few little Eddie dips and diddles that don't belong in the song. It's really fucking funny and bad. Please listen to Respect the Winds.
Related topics I don't care about that I wanted to seek your thoughts on. In Virtuosity, when they have a shoehorned in scene to set that Kelly Lynch has a daughter, where she's just like, well, I'll just be real quick, and they go to her house for no reason but to show that she has a daughter, and then the daughter comes out and knocks on Denzel's window, and he's like, hey, what's up? And she starts talking to him about baseball, and then when she leaves, Kelly Lynch is like, what were you doing? She's like, talking about baseball. What the fuck was that about?
Tim Heidecker. That's a Tim Heidecker moment.
Do either of you have a theory why the daughter brings up baseball? Because she says, like, do you think it's a good idea to have a left-handed pitcher? And he like smiles and nods knowingly, and then they cut to something else.
Adam, she said left-handed first baseman.
Anyway, so what the fuck is going on with that?
It's random.
Well, do you think that may have just been part of like the later scrapped love story scene where like that was like
his daughter?
Well, I mean that seems to be like kind of a common buildup is that you have the main love interest, and then you see how like the man, like how well he connects with the children. So that's how
Even if you're right, the first thing the daughter says is left-handed first baseman. What the fuck? Where is she coming from with that?
It's a
Hi, stranger in a car.
It's a poorly designed attempt to melt Denzel's character's ice heart. He is, traumatized and hardened by prison and the death of his family. And this little kid asks about baseball in a cute, way. That's what I'm talking about. Like that and other pieces of this movie are like so inexplicably careless that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just funny to just know that like Denzel Washington signed up for that. I don't know.
Well, I think there's possibly some deeper meaning in here because was it his left arm that got blown off?
Could be.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, if it was left arms, like maybe that was the connection.
That's a reach. That's a reach. But that's what I wanted. I wasn't sure if people that know more about sports would have any explanation for what the fuck was going on with that.
It's a random cute kid melting his ice heart moment. It's just dumb. It doesn't need to be.
But
there.
like, there's no reason to think he wouldn't be all about kids because he wants to save all the kids because he couldn't save his kid. Well, it's not like he's an angry, bitter man.
My theory is that he's an angry, bitter man, and they just failed to develop that. He's supposed to be like somewhat of a monster himself. I think that's what they were trying to do, and they just failed because
that would be if they leaned more into the Silence of the Lambs thing that they're kind of doing.
Correct.
But they can't decide whether he's Will Graham or some other analog.
That's right. They have not. The movie did not make up its mind about what that character even is. Mm-hmm. It's confused right down to the very last thing where he like pats what's her name on the shoulder. That's an awkward gesture. Did you notice that? You don't know. I mean, like, okay, so it's one of the very last scenes where he saved the daughter.
Yeah.
And the daughter and the mother are embracing. What's her name? Kelly Lynch. Kelly Lynch is embracing the daughter and crying. And, Denzel Washington is just sort of like proudly looking on, sort of like he's made peace with everything. He's found resolution and closure. And he should just turn around and walk away, or they should have some scene where like she hugs him, but neither of those two things happen. He kind of walks past her and like touches her deltoid in an odd manner. It's just sort of like, what the fuck?
You're making me want to go back and rewatch it. That was when I was frantically trying to be ready on time for the podcast because the movie was ending at like 3:03 p.m.
Oh man.
So I missed it. I got to go back and revisit it.
Well, I mean, this is one I will watch again and again because it's like, it's always nice to have a movie where, and I'm sure there are tons of movies like this that I haven't seen, but it's like, man, yeah, this is something I will incorporate into my corpus of.
Yeah, this movie is going to be like when they showed John Wayne Gacy and Hitler's head streaming into Sid 6.7's brain. This movie is now going to be Denzel's CGI head spewing lasers into your brain to put your like what the fuck are the like sensitivities, like the sensitivities at like 862%.
Random stupid shit. I don't just think of this as a Denzel movie at all. I won't remember it for him at all. It's not because he does other kinds of shit. This is not, that could have been anybody. That could have been any like heroic. I mean, let's think of some other people who could have been in Denzel's role. I think the Sid's role, Russell Crowe, was meant to do it. What
about, as you referenced, I also thought of Jim Carrey when I was watching. Can you imagine if Jim Carrey was Sid 6.7? Or Robin Williams was Sid 6.7?
They're not sinister enough. Russell Crowe has.
Robin Williams can be sinister. You seen 1 Hour Photo? You seen Insomnia?
Yeah, I mean, okay, fair enough. I respectfully disagree. I think Russell Crowe is perfect. I think maybe you could make a case for somebody like
Christian Bale.
I was going to say Christian Slater.
Sure.
Or maybe Kiefer Sutherland.
If you want to watch the best, bar none, Kiefer Sutherland bad man movie, it's called Eye for an Eye, starring Sally Field and Ed Harris, and he like rapes and murders their daughter. Unreal.
Yeah,
unreal.
I've seen that movie.
Best
it's been
Kiefer.
a long time. It's been a long
But
time.
yes, that move, having recently seen that, I also was thinking about Kiefer for alternative Sid 6.7. I'm sure he was at least called about it.
Probably, yeah. Maybe Russell Crowe beat him in the audition.
Yeah.
Who do you think's a better actor, Mike? Russell Crowe or Kiefer Sutherland?
Oh, that's a very good question here. My inkling would be to say Russell Crowe.
He does more prestige shit, you know?
Yeah, but it's like
he keeps it real.
Yeah, I think I enjoy both of them. I mean, I think I can't think of a Kiefer. I cannot think of a Kiefer Sutherland movie or performance that I did not enjoy. But when I think of the two, I just think of like you said with Russell Crowe doing some more prestige stuff, and he's playing different actors from like Sid 6.7 to John Nash, whatnot. So he seemed to have to Maximus Decimus Berilius as well.
Yeah. I had a thing for that movie in high school when it came out. I liked it, even though it's not good. Yep, I know you hated it. It's like, it's the kind of movie, it's just like, these are movies that Adam Higgins hates, It's like Gladiator, most other movies. Anyway,
Master and Commander, that's another, isn't that Russell Crowe too?
It is, yeah.
I didn't see that one.
He loves that shit. He's like, give me some frilly shirts and let me yell with an accent.
Well, and of course, again, I think we've referenced into the podcast before, but there's also, he plays, Inspector Javert in the musical adaptation of.
Which by the way, I thought that was phenomenal. I had my doubts because I grew up, my mother loved, theater and Broadway, and, Les Mis was just something that was part of our hearts, part of our family. When Russell Crowe and Hugh Jackman, I can't even tell you, phenomenal.
Uh-huh.
I'm done. I'm out of gas. But
at least you hit the nitro right before you ran out of gas there.
Yeah,
still got a little left in the tank.
So Evan, I want to ask you a question here. So let's so first of all, I took tomorrow off. It is President's Day. Maybe you all have it off as well. But do you have some like
hospitals don't close for bullshit holidays, Mike? I'll be slaving away like all the real workers of the world, all the true laborers of America.
I have a bookmark that for, but continue. I have a bookmark. Place.
Well, no, I was gonna ask if the Presso Sundays have set in. If you're gonna go home and watch Sting Unmasked to get yourself prepared for another grueling week.
I will tell you, dude, I mean, it's every day is Depresso Sunday. But no, that's dramatic. Part of the reason why I come to the office and get a little worky done is so I can spook away the Sunday Depresso scaries. But so interesting point that you made about President's Day and taking off. This won't apply to me because I'm not a student. It could apply to me, but I'm not going to let it. UNC, like I presume other big universities, rather than having spring breaks due to COVID, is scheduling wellness days. Get this. So the idea is that, okay, don't go anywhere. No, we're not having spring break, so you can't go and get COVID, bring it back. But here, take 2 days on either side of the weekend for wellness days. No homework. The professors can't make anything due those days, but don't travel. That's what we are having. So tomorrow and Tuesday are wellness days, meaning I could take the days off. And it's also funny that that's a thing. That's a policy that they're doing.
Well, are you doing any in-person teaching these days?
No.
So
But it is happening. It had started happening last week. It was very controversial because it started the Monday after the UNC fans stormed Franklin Street, even after the chancellor told them not to after beating Duke on Saturday night. Mm-hmm. Anyway, there are in-person classes happening. Mm-hmm. But it's very few. They're sparse, and like it's like, somebody will teach a class. If it's like 30 kids in the class, 12 of them will come to the classroom. It's a room that holds 60. They're all spaced out, and the other 18 are online.
I think they should have just canceled all education until the pandemic's over. Just stay home. Not worth it.
Well, I mean, you might as well just say, like, why don't we just cancel life? And if that's
everybody except the hospital workers, who are the most important workers in the world.
At the beginning of the pandemic, you said the opposite. You said, let's everybody just get it and call the weak from the herd.
Yeah, but we missed our opportunity. Now we dragged it on too long. That was one thing we could have done. Because as we know, I'm pro human extinction. So that's not really a consistent viewpoint.
You're not pro human extinction.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of
we already did this one. We got to at least wait another couple episodes where we do what we already did.
It's like these people who think they're atheists, You're simply not an atheist. You can't get the transcendent moral architecture without also conceding that there's some kind of transcendent ethical being. You just can't do that. You're not an atheist. And if you don't believe me, read Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. That's what happens to people who think they might be atheists, and it's not good. It's not.
You need to give a lecture just doing a full-on Jordan Peterson voice. Yeah,
man.
You can do a scene. You can use Pinocchio to explain the subject matter that you're going over.
What's crazy is that he put like all of his lectures from like the past 5 years on YouTube.
Yeah.
And most of them are just
on his deathbed or something from his weird diet and having health problems.
Oh no, he's back up. He's thriving again.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say he's thriving, but he's active. But most of his lecture content is just like basic psychology course stuff. It's like, here's my lectures.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. So like if you looked at like 90% of the Jordan Peterson content on YouTube is not very controversial. And it's just normal academic shit.
It takes one quote.
Yeah.
It only takes one out of context excerpt from a Mike's Movie podcast to end academic's career.
Yeah, that's entirely true. This is the type of stuff I do wonder though. I mean, so let's like hypothetically speaking, if any of us runs for president, I'm sure that at some point somebody would come across this podcast and they'd be like, okay, well, we're gonna pay somebody to listen to every single one of these, and then something would come up that would I bet something like that would. I mean, I don't think anything necessarily would come up, but I bet if we were running for president and somebody found out that this podcast existed, that somebody would be like listening to every single episode repeatedly and taking notes.
If I was going to run for president, I'd just delete them before I ran. Because,
Yeah.
I don't know that I ever say anything that's like incriminating. There's some things that probably are quite a bit uncouth.
Yeah, no, it's nothing that was nothing there's anything actual problem with, but like, things that people like to get riled up about for no reason. That's the half the stuff we talk about that isn't a movie, which is most of the podcast.
I don't even think we ever talk about anything controversial. Like, I mean, we just brought up Jordan Peterson, but nobody made any like agreements with him or disagreements. It's not like I don't remember ever saying anything like.
Oh, I'm talking about jacking off, porno stuff.
Right.
I just imagine if I were your student and I could find a clip of you talking about jacking off, game over.
But what would you do with it? I mean, you just have it.
Make sure everybody saw it and laughed about it. That's
exactly. And part of me kind of like wants that to happen. You know what I mean? Like I leave that little possibility out there because it's like good, like add a little spice in your life. This is my lame excuse for a professor. Just another beat off like all the other ones.
Yeah. It's you gotta walk that tightrope for a second.
They need to get this image out of their heads. They all think I'm like, reading by candlelight with my like, drooping nightcap on at 2 a.m. about Kantian philosophy and statistical methods. It's not true. I'm jacking off.
Jacking off to Kant.
I'm jacking my Kant while I watch, what was that thing? 2001 Playboy video calendar on VHS. It's like a calendar, but it's real live motion. You know what I mean? Playboy.
That's right. Well, speaking of calendars, it is the winter months, and I want to ask a quick question to you, Adam, and that is it still a winter wonderland out there?
Yeah. Here, we can go look out the window.
Yeah. Has there been any stretch of time this winter where there has not been full snow cover on the ground?
It was a slow start. I can't look at my phone while I'm doing this. Can you see outside?
I sure can.
Looks nice. Looks pretty.
Yeah.
We're basically having Seattle winter weather here, Mike, and you're having Wisconsin weather in Seattle.
That's exactly it. I mean, this is no joke. Over the last day and a half, we have received 1 foot of snow.
It's crazy.
That's nothing. We've had like fucking 6 feet. We're supposed to have 10 feet next week.
Yeah, but he's in Seattle.
Yeah.
What is snow in Seattle?
I keep forgetting that we're in different places because this is such a safe space where we're all so close together.
Well, pretty soon it's like the virtual is going to be the real world. And I feel like that's really
going to be like Virtuosity or Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah. You ever like think about this question though of like, what is real though? You know what I mean? Like, what is real?
I believe the horrible idiots that made Room 237 have a new horrible idiot documentary about the theory that we live in a simulation that a bunch of idiots will watch and we get excited about. Was
Room 237 the Shining one?
That's correct.
So you are not a fan of that?
I am a huge fan of The Shining and the conspiracy theories around it. I think the people that made that documentary are dumb, bad people who should not make movies.
What was Room 237 about? I mean,
multiple different conspiracy theories relating to The Shining.
Okay, is that somehow like tie into like the moon landing?
That's one of them.
Mm-hmm. So, speaking of movies that aren't the movie that we're reviewing, didn't you? So, Adam, you had another movie that you had recently watched that you had.
Yeah, there's a brand new Denzel serial killer movie, The Little Thing. Jared Leto. Great.
So when you mention it on the text, I always feel like, well, if they're going to be talking about it, I got to watch it. So I tried to watch it and I can't because it's still in theaters, which I know doesn't stop you. Well, If it's not on Amazon, I can't watch it. You know, everything I do has to be Amazon.
I'm kind of surprised that it's not at least available to like pay to rent on Amazon.
Probably it will be in a week or two, but it wasn't yet, so I didn't watch it. But while searching for it, I found a biopic starring Jared Leto.
Oh, the Mark David Chapman one?
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
No, but I put it on my queue. I'm looking forward to it.
I watched the preview and I can already tell there's going to be about 2 minutes of entertaining stuff and then a bunch of just suffering bullshit in between.
Chapter 27. I mean, it's just oh wow, you can get a poster, a giant Subway poster of his face,
of his fat face.
Yeah, cool, very cool. It looks good.
Anyway, I want to say I did make a good faith effort to watch the little things. I checked Netflix, I checked Amazon, and then I went to Google and I said how to stream the little things. And I learned that you have to have HBO Max.
Oh, because that's how I watched it, but I had no idea it was exclusive to that. I figured it was included there and you could pay for it on other services.
Well, there are it is also playing in movie theaters here, but unfortunately, I have not received my vaccination, so I will.
You're not medical worker, you're little people.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, it's too bad that it's not available for rent outside HBO Max. But I don't know why everybody doesn't have HBO Max. It's the only place you can watch Mad TV, which is why I have HBO Max. But it is, I will say, Denzel's got a good track record with serial killer movies. You got Ricochet, best movie of all time. You got Virtuosity. You got Fallen, also pretty good. And now we got Little Things. And I had low expectations for Little Things because Jared Leto is the crazy guy, and I'm like, Jared fucking Leto, get out of my face. But he was really, he was entertaining the hell out of me. I don't know, and it shouldn't matter how serious Jared Leto thinks he's taking it, but Jared Leto is giving a Sid 6.7 level performance in The Little Things. Denzel is asleep. Denzel is old and tired and taking a nap. But Denzel does say famously in the movie, there's a scene where they're showing Jared Leto crime scene photos to gauge his reaction. And when he is very calculatedly not reacting the way they expect him to, Denzel grabs his crotch and goes, I bet your dick's harder than Chinese arithmetic. And you're like, what year did this movie come out?
So, no, I forgot what I was going to say now.
But I know that Adam's a big fan of 30 Seconds to Mars.
I don't know what that
is. Rock and roll forever.
Well, so I'm traumatized by Jared Leto, like probably many people are, including himself. He should be. He probably should have.
Because of the Joker?
Yeah, I mean, it was...
Oh, okay, wait. Sidebar. I meant to bring this up. Breaking news. So Joker related. Quentin Tarantino did a 3-hour interview with Edgar Wright for the Empire magazine, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. Overall, it's a bunch of them talking about obscure movies you nor I, none of us are ever going to watch. But he's talking about how he always likes movies that are subversive in the way that they make the audience root for the objectively bad person. And the example he opens with is in Psycho, when he's hiding her body in the car and he pushes it in the pond and then it like stops sinking and the sun starts coming up. And as the audience, you're like, oh my God, you got to get that car under there. But you're like, he's a fucking killer. Why do you want the car to go under there? And then he was like, and the best modern example of that is the talk show scene in The Joker. Massively subversive. Excellent film. And I was like, get the fuck out of here, Quentin.
Yeah, but see I don't even I'm not even worried about that. But what he did in that Suicide movie is like pure diarrhea sludge. Like he ought to have been fired from the universe for that. And
for Suicide Squad?
Yep.
I would say Suicide Squad, dumb movie, Jared Leto, bad. However, Jared Leto is being as dumb and bad as a Suicide Squad movie should be. The people that are taking Suicide Squad seriously are Denzel Washington in Virtuosity, and he is trying to be Sid 6.7 in Virtuosity, and he's not good, so he's not succeeding.
Sure, I see your point, but at the same time, like there was massive consensus around the fact that he failed in that movie to do anything of value. And
true.
he should have bowed out of the industry. So I'm nervous, especially because you're telling me he's doing Sid 6.7 stuff in this new movie.
But no, not like in Suicide Squad, he is doing analogous to Sid 6.7 in that it's like really crazy and frenetic.
Right,
I meant that in Little Things, he's not doing that at all, but he is correctly calibrating his performance to the movie he's in. And in that movie, he's supposed to be a sleazy, creepy guy. And he is doing that to an extremely over-the-top degree that is appropriate for the kind of dumb movie that is. And that is the manner in which he is being Sid 6.7. You know, you can also call it a Mike on New Year's. You know, like, is it an appropriate celebration for it's at hand? It doesn't always mean that you're going totally crazy. You could have like a Mike on New Year's study session where you're just really going for the gusto and just studying.
Yeah.
It's true. Well, yeah, that's a good comparison. You know, you have to calibrate your performance both to the source material and also to the context there. So, context of the celebration.
Piss break for me, but you guys can go ahead and keep.
Ooh, that's a nice photo.
Yeah, we need to do the 90s Conan O'Brien style interview.
Oh, hey guys, I'm having a piss break too.
Yeah. Well, geez, now we can get the what it was. Trying to think if there was anything I was going to ask you or go over that we haven't talked about already about Virtuosity.
Seems like you, between this and Johnny Mnemonic, you're on a cyber kick. Are we going to do any other cyber picks for Mike? Cyber winter?
You know, that's a good. That does inspire a thought, and that is a movie that I watched last weekend, which I think kind of falls into this category, though very loosely. Was for the first time in 20 some odd years, from start to finish, I watched Escape from LA, which I had not.
I mean, kind of. It's not really cyber, but it is over the top and ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's really not cyber. I mean, I guess because you have the hologram there, and you have like ultra futuristic, stuff, sort of.
It is funny because like the Brett Leonard, Johnny Mnemonic era of digital effects are kind of obviously dated, but to me, like, I liked them then, and even when they instantly became dated, I still kind of like the look. Or Lord of Illusions also has effects like that. And I kind of feel like I don't really have an explanation why the kind of digital effects in Escape from LA, which also were, instantly dated, why I never liked that. Because you know what I mean? They're also similarly like cutting edge at the time, maybe, but like what I like about Virtuosity, Johnny Mnemonic, those is kind of like how broken and ridiculous they are. But then when like Escape from LA has like really ridiculous broken digital effects, I'm kind of like, I don't like that. And even for myself, I don't know why that is.
Well, no, I 100% agree with what you're saying there, because just to do a comparison with Escape from LA, there is a scene when Snake is like in a submarine and he's going to the island and he's like driving through like the ruins of Los Angeles, and there's a scene where like a giant shark tries to attack the submarine, and it just looks terrible. It's like worse than what you would see from like a local plumbing commercial that was that spent their entire marketing budget on a CGI. It just looks bad. But then you have Lawnmower Man, Virtuosity, like the virtual reality world that they have. And to me, it kind of has that same, some of the same qualities to it. But I can't get enough of Lawnmower Man, Sid 6.7 virtual face, but like that, the Escape from LA, Snake Plissken on a surfboard, jumping onto the back of a car. It just has this like dissonance to it, which it just doesn't quite.
But that's what I like about the Johnny Mnemonic Virtuosity ones, is that it's totally cognitively dissonant. You're just like, whoa, that's like not even close to. And I guess it is true that all of those build into their plot that it isn't even attempting to be, which, Terminator 2 paved the road. The liquid metal is the best excuse for effect, the best you can do with the effects of the time. But I just kind of like, I kept thinking like, eventually I'm going to like how broken the late 90s, early 2000s digital effects look. And it's just never happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know what you mean, but there are some of those visual effects though, which I still enjoy to this.
Who's singing? Is that you, Evan?
Sorry, I'm not doing
What are you doing?
It's I'm restoring the database.
Oh boy! So you're just gonna go back to work for the rest of the podcast?
No, I just had to.
All right, guys, I'm doing some work here.
One thing. I clicked one thing, and so the files.
I think your inner Sid 6.7 is coming out because you need the attention, is what you're doing.
What do you think?
Oh yeah, that was another thing I had to say about Virtuosity and Ricochet is the ending. The escalation of Virtuosity involves him wanting to have as many people as possible watching, which is also what happens at the end of Ricochet when he's obsessed with it being on live TV, which also ends with like the bad guy falling off a tall building in Los Angeles. I was just thinking about the Ricochet parallels a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think I've seen Ricochet since I saw it for the first time at the place you were staying on Jenny Street with Shane and Rick and others. Matt, who else was Eric?
Turco for a minute.
Oh boy, what's new?
How many dings are we going to be having here, my friend?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
It'd be really funny if then there was one more.
On the subject of data, you're doing some data stuff.
Yes, got another one.
No, I'm turning it off. Just be quiet.
What?
Turn it off.
So something about this movie that wasn't dated. I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's what does amuse me about older movies, older commercials.
I can't
ride this out. We gotta just ride this out.
You're just gonna have to mute yourself, bro.
You're in timeout, Ev.
I turned it off.
Yeah.
I turned it. I swear to God, it's
Evan, you ruined the podcast.
Okay, take it from the top, everybody. We're going back to one.
You shouldn't tell me that. That makes me feel accomplished. Hey.
Yeah.
It's just a little jingle bells for you. It's an accompaniment. That's what it was. It was an accompaniment. You were saying
anyway,
about the
what
movie?
Mike was saying.
Yeah. What I was saying is, you watch. So I would like to reference the movie Taking Care of Business, where there's a scene early on where Charles Grodin, I think he's talking to a secretary, and he's saying something of like, "Oh, that's a nice computer. It has 32 megabytes of RAM," something like that. And older commercials, you get like your 56 megabytes of RAM, and you're like, "Oh wow, that's really crazy." But, of course, now it's like you have gigabytes of RAM in your cellular phone.
I don't think most phones have gigabytes of RAM. They have gigabytes of memory. I don't think they have gigabytes of RAM. I bet they have like maybe 64 megabytes of RAM.
So the server I'm restoring this database on has 400 gigabytes of RAM.
Of RAM. But that's a server.
Yeah, it's a server.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but
finish your point.
The point I was getting at is that Sid picked 6.7. He talks about having like 50 terabytes.
Right.
Yeah.
It isn't that much.
On level. That's a Blu-ray. That's a full Blu-ray disc.
But it goes like megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes.
Well, 50 terabytes is, I mean, if you were going to buy enough hard drives to store 50 terabytes of data and you bought the cheapest hardware, I mean, you'd still have to spend at least $1,000. Yeah. Look it up. Typical like 2 or 4.
Look it up. That's not my job. You guys are the guys who Google stuff on the show. You look it up.
I mean, 50 terabytes is like, that's more data than the research server holds. A large server, that's a large.
I think you're agreeing with Mike. Mike's point is that like
yes,
he was
I am. I love it when movies get the numbers wrong on computer stuff, or they forecast a futuristic, large sounding amount of data or memory that becomes not that much. I enjoy things like that in movies, and I wish I could remember some other instances, but maybe
Yeah.
this.
But I would say in this case, I think that they did a good job with that number.
Yeah.
So I don't think they did it all. He's saying 50 terabytes like it's like some huge, massive number, and it's not.
I think you could have some kind of semblance of an AI thing like Sid Book 7 in 50 terabytes of like if it's an executable program being 50 terabytes.
Well, a terabyte is like a typical computer, like a typical personal computer now is a terabyte of disk space. So,
well, I would say that if we were to go back in time to the year 2010,
yeah,
you know, 50 terabytes then, I'm just saying like now, and when I saw that, again, I could be wrong. I'm not a big computer guy, but when I saw 50 terabytes, I was like, yeah, that seems a lot. That seems like a lot.
It's ambitious for the 90s. I agree with you. Like for the 90s to come up with that number, I mean, you would expect them to lowball it a little bit more. But I think about this.
My theory would be because Brett Leonard was a big computer effects guy, Brett Leonard probably was more aware of like the scaling of data requirements for computers than most people. And so he was like, guys, because no one was talking about terabytes in 1995. He's like, what are we going to be talking about after gigabytes? We're going to say that, but like a lot of them. And they were like, okay, Brett.
I don't think you could put SID 6.7. I'm just trying to think. Maybe it would be even less. I mean, it's not necessary. There's no reason to expect. I mean, yeah,
he doesn't store a lot of data. He's a program, and he's evolved.
That's right. He's just a few lines of Python code. You know, you don't need to.
I don't know about that.
maybe a little HTML sprinkled in there.
Yeah, you just mix your codes up. A little Java on top.
A little bit of Julia, you know.
No. Yeah, maybe Evan's right. Maybe they're overshooting it. Maybe that's an absurdly large amount of data for SID 6.7. Or maybe he's lying. Maybe he's being boastful because he's a boastful, prideful man.
Well, the other thing is like there's no way 50 terabytes would fit on that little thing that he's in.
Well, that's obviously supposed to be some kind of technology that doesn't exist yet.
But it isn't the future. That's the whole weird thing. Like it's not supposed to be.
I will go back and rewatch it and somehow prove it's at least slightly the future. I really believe it's something like supposed to be like 2 years from when it came out. That's my honest.
I think that's it. I think that's it. And I think that at the time too, in the 90s, I think the general sentiment is that like technology is an absolute rocket ship, and like 2 years from now we're going to be in flying cars.
Everybody thought nanotechnology was going to like be the new thing, and there were going to be like all kinds of new like cures for cancer that could be injected by like putting robots in your bloodstream and things like that, and that didn't happen.
Yeah,
but that seems to be what this movie was part of that, which is cool.
Yeah, this movie was kind of a cure for cancer.
Right. I mean, like if you could cut off a snake's butt and like touch it to some glass and have the nano machines grow it back, you could definitely.
I want to say the way that the nanobots used glass to rebuild themselves, I found that to be like very satisfying to watch how that.
Yeah, great sound effect.
Yeah.
Great visual. When he starts just eating it, that's really
that was it. That was it. Because we've talked about this. This has been a theme of this podcast where there are so many opportunities that are just like perfectly teed up for this movie, and they just nail it every single time. And one of them is the scene when Sid is like driving away after he's been shot, and there's the broken glass, and he just picks it up and starts eating it.
That's the one of the scene in the movie. Yeah, maybe first.
They just do everything right. And I would say I think that is a segue I will give to the whole. This is the quantitative portion of the show.
Oh, is it already time? How long have we been talking?
Hour 45. Like eating glass like that seems like something you would do on New Year's, don't you think?
You know,
Wait, yeah, isn't this the first time we've done one since New Year's? What did you do for New Year's, Mike?
oh, for New
Not
Year's,
first.
that's a good question. I think New Year's, I was just hanging out in Seattle here, and I remember on New Year's I was playing some online chess, and I actually got on quite the winning streak. And then I was feeling pretty good about it, pretty good about myself. And then like shortly thereafter, a couple days later, I went on a long losing streak. And I mean, again, Adam, you probably know how it goes with chess. Sometimes you're just like you're making all the right moves, and sometimes you can't help but just make all the wrong moves. And you know, when it's going great, you feel invincible. When it's going wrong, you're like, am I ever going to win again?
And I hate to burst your bubbles, but we've done 2 podcasts since New Year's, guys.
Which one? The Shane one was pre-New Year's, wasn't it?
I'm sorry, 1. You're right. We've done 1. Lighthouse was January 12th. I thought Major Pain was after New Year's, but it was December.
Is Major Pain uploaded? Oh yeah, that's the edited one.
No, Lighthouse.
Oh, that,
I don't want to have to edit this one too, so
Yeah.
let's just drop it. Okay.
I can't believe I forgot about Major Pain.
Major Pain was a
That was
good one.
after Shane?
Oh, okay. So speaking of that, I'm just looking at the page. Most of our podcasts average like something like 20 views. Major Pain has 637 views.
We're blowing up.
How
Can't
does
wait to
that?
see this gets.
What did we do to that one that made it?
Made it about Major Pain. People
it
are
has-
ready. Iron is hot for Major
Oh,
Pain.
there was there any sort of
Tag?
any other prominent website that had like a Major Pain feature in it? And then
Not that I know of, and that has happened with other podcasts we've done, where shortly before or after we do one, someone else does do a thing about it. But if it happened for Major Pain, I was unaware of it.
if I remember correctly, I think the AV Club was like, "Is Real Men a good movie?"
Everybody,
Yes, that was the most ridiculous. Fuck you, AV Club. Fuck you, AV Club, for being allowed to upload the disclosure scenes that YouTube takes down when I upload them, and fuck you for stealing our Real Men coverage.
Yeah, they should just linked it to been like, "Is Real Men a good movie?" Just link to our podcast and be like, find out for yourself.
That's a very large number. I don't understand. Well, people must really like Major Pain.
We'll see if they like Virtuosity as much as Major Pain.
That's it though. Like, but Evan, can you get into the analytics of these and find out? Okay, we have
Can you
like
get everybody's phone number? Can we start calling people that watch the video?
yeah, go to their front door. But can you like find out like how much people are actually listening to those? Because I think you can get down to like
You
second.
can see the duration. Yeah, I'm sure it's not.
Don't tell me.
It's not probably deep into it, but like that's just an order of magnitude larger than any of the other things. So I just want to know.
You know, it's just like at the end of Virtuosity when he's doing Deaf TV and he has the live stats and he's like, "They love you, Daryl."
Mm-hmm. Was that because this movie also came out after Natural Born Killers, right?
I think so. I think that was a couple years before.
94 Natural Born Killers.
Wasn't like that kind of like Natural Born Killers about like, you know, the modern.
That's true. The media obsession. Very true.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot going on. I think this movie is just
But yeah, that's the thing. It's doing the like B movie ripoff thing where you just take a bunch of stuff from other movies and mix it together, but somehow it's not a B movie. It's like a huge A-list Hollywood movie doing the like, it's like an Italian ripoff of like successful 90s Hollywood movies, but then they just made it an actual 90s Hollywood movie. That's a glitch in the system that proves we live in a simulation.
Yeah.
Watch a documentary about it from the guys that made Room 387.
Yeah,
What is the argument that we live in a simulation?
I don't want to. It's the least interesting thing in the world to talk about.
stupid.
You can watch a bad documentary about it if you're interested.
Yeah, again, I don't know why I always reference Joe Rogan on this podcast, but I know that he's discussed that.
It's something along the lines of like, there's no hard proof that we're not.
Yeah.
And that's an
Great
argument. People make it that same argument for a lot of stupid things. And, you know,
Yeah.
you can't prove logically that it's not a simulation.
Yeah. And well, here's the thing though, when you actually take a step back and you look at reality, I just don't see how you can think that this is reality and not actually a simulation. I mean, just really think about it. It's like, oh yeah, I guess when you put it that way.
You can't tell. It's like it all could be a dog's dream. You know, that's the way I like to think of it.
Maybe this is maybe this is an argument why a good liberal arts education is important. So you take your
ban liberal arts, get vasectomies.
Everyone needs to
the biggest waste of my life was liberal arts education. I should have gone straight to tech school.
We wouldn't be having this podcast if you hadn't done liberal arts.
That's the one argument that we're in a simulation.
Yeah. I remember I always reminisce about my early interactions with Adam Higgins. And
as
don't we all? Yeah. Well, one of the first ones was you were walking back to our dorm with the biggest pizza that you could get from Pizza 24-inch with like every topping. And I was really impressed and wanted to talk about that because I want, whatever. Why wouldn't you
were like, I bought porn, but I didn't get a big pizza.
I spent my $27.50 on this porno DVD at Red Letter News. Yeah. And your explanation was that like I do this every week, so I don't have to go to the grocery store. This is what I get instead of groceries.
And I don't know if you remember, the 24-inch pizza in the box didn't fit in the fridges they had in the dorm. I had to take the shelves out, store it in an angle, so when you open the fridge, it just flopped down like Bruce Willis's bed in Fifth Element.
Because we had taken that shit out of the box and like wrapping it in foil or anything like that. We don't do that. 19-year-old dumbass kid.
You know what though? I think again, this could actually be proof that not only do we live in a simulation, but actually Adam and I are in fact the same person. And like for goalie delusion stuff. But when I was in college, I would go to Ian's Pizza because you could get a large pepperoni pizza for like $11. So I would just go there, get the large 20-inch $11 pepperoni pizza, and I would just like that would be my food for a day or two.
I mean, if we're gonna say that like a college man thinking that it's smart to live off of eating pizza means we're the same person, we're just gonna like back our way into unified field theory.
Yeah.
What I can't remember, Mike, is my first interactions with you. I just remember at one point in the 7th grade, I woke up one day and we were friends.
That's in the UFO culture, that's called lost time, when you can't remember what happened. And it usually means there's some kind of radiation call.
Well, Mike and I were in school together starting in the 6th grade, but I don't think we were friends in the 6th grade.
Why only in the 6th grade? What was going on in 5th grade?
In 5th grade, we were at completely different schools.
So we started middle school.
Did one of you move?
No. You had your elementary school, and then
again, this is big metropolitan Wisconsin. This isn't Vermont where everybody goes through K-12 at the same schoolhouse.
That is how I grew up.
Well, different elementary schools converged within different middle schools, and Mike and I both went to a weird middle school. I don't even know what to call. I guess it's a magnet school.
Well, yeah, no, but I think we're getting off topic from virtuosity, but I do know that my recollection. I'm sure that we talked, maybe talked paths across in like 6th grade, but I remember, I think the first like meaningful interaction that I remember is 7th grade bike trip to the Bong recreational area.
Okay, yeah.
Bong recreational area?
That was called. Yeah. This will come as a surprise, but I think that a lot of students would make some jokes because Bong's
really good jokes. I would like to hear all those jokes.
I still
yeah. So for example, like some students, they would say, they smoked a bong at Bong recreation area.
I didn't get it then. I don't get it now.
Yeah. No. So that was
now I remember that now. Yeah, I remember that. We were cooking some shit.
Yeah. But then I think in terms of like, that would have been the foundation there of that. No, I went to for elementary school though. I went to a Montessori school.
I did. Yeah. I come from a Montessori family too. I didn't go there. I mean, I went to a real school for elementary school, but
Yeah. Hey man, Montessori, I was the one who taught myself everything that I know.
you
That's
just learned whatever you felt, whatever your little heart and penis desired. That's the Montessori way. If my grandmother and aunt heard me say this, they would be mortified, but I think they already know that I kind of think this way. Anyway, they're Montessori teachers. Mike, it's been 25 years. And here we are, you know, Adam, it's been like 15.
Yeah, well, that's good news for Adam because I have a 25-year policy with my friendships. We're about to expire here.
Hell yeah.
That's a good policy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I have maybe, I don't know if I've hit 25 consistent friendships.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike's probably
Impressive.
Yeah.
I feel like we should have a 21 gun salute or a jet should fly over for your 25 friendship.
Well, for me and Mike's 40th birthdays.
You're gonna watch the Playboy calendar tape.
on the IMAX. We're gonna rent out an IMAX theater and watch a VHS copy of 2001 Playboy.
Zoom it in more.
I just can't believe my fat 20-year-old or 16-year-old, 15-year-old, 16 clicked. Point click credit card information, $29.99. Yes, please. Send me the tape. Don't want mom to find out. Better make sure I get home before she does and get the packages. When would I watch this? That's the thing. It's like Nick and I were always together. I guess
you guys don't jack off together?
No, never had a masturbation catching incident in a house with 3 boys. I never caught, and they never caught me. And I'm very grateful for that. You know, we knew how to.
I think that means maybe they don't, and you're the only masturbator in your family.
I wouldn't be surprised. At the very least, I'm sure I did it in an order of magnitude more frequently than they did. But well, Mitchell was so much younger. But yeah, Nick and I are different in that department. Anyway, no incidents. No weird poop stuff either. We were clean boys.
Uh-huh. When I was 16 or maybe 17, sometime in 16, 17, before drug analog laws came into effect, you could buy all kinds of psychoactive drugs from labs and have them shipped to your house on the internet. And we would do that. And that was the reason we would make sure we got home first so that no one asked what like laboratory package was being sent to teenage children.
Well, it was a different time though. It kind of related to what you're saying, Adam. I remember 2004, 2005 walking around in Madison, and you could just like over the counter buy salvia.
I mean, yeah, that was a whole other thing. But yes, I think salvia even because I forget what year, maybe it was 2004, that like they realized that like, because what would happen is like they're like scheduled substances, but then they would people in labs would make like a slightly different, but actually different variation and be like, okay, well, that's not illegal yet. And eventually the DEA was like, fuck it. There's a new law that if it's close to something that's already illegal, it's also illegal. And that shut it all down. And that was game over. And then it was like, you couldn't ship. Anyway, that's a whole other real podcast topic we're not going to get into.
Yeah, well, you know what though? The thing is like salvia, it alters your perception of reality, so it's like your own virtual reality.
It makes you aware that you're in a simulation. Like, let's all bring up, you guys weren't there. There's a famous time Turco smoked salvia and Shane and I recorded him, and he realized we were recording him way too soon to get anything really good. The funniest thing he says on the recording is, it's like I'm falling off a plane, the plane of existence.
Jesus. See, these are the reasons. Like, there's a little instinct in me, back in those days in college.
Obviously, you had good instincts when you were wearing the centerfold.
No, not there's a sickness in me where I hear something like that, and it's like I want to inflict some kind of deep suffering on that person. Like
maybe you should be a cop. Maybe you should be in the police academy.
Perfect. Yeah, I love to just do terrible.
When I hear about someone doing drugs, I want to hurt them. They're
No,
like,
no, 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 that's funny, but that's not what I meant. Specifically, it's Turco saying something like, so when I hear that, what I remember about Turco, and I got to know him very well. You know, we were only good friends for a couple years, and we haven't spoken in 10, but he would say stupid, like stock shit like that. Like he thought, like in his head, he had an idea that that was the cool thing to say.
hey, I'm still quoting it all these years later.
Yeah, but like he knew he was playing you though. There's
Well, that's
another
what I mean. He figured out we were recording him, and that ruined it. We almost got him, but
right.
didn't work out like we wanted.
There's so much shit like that he, you know, what the fuck? Anyhow.
I don't know what this has to do with virtuosity.
I don't either. I do wonder about the hundreds of people that listen to these podcasts, if they get to this point, and I wonder if this is the draw of like who
This is when they like and subscribe, when they get to Evan talking shit about our friends from college.
Yeah, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to take it there. That's not. Sometimes I almost forgot we were still recording. That's how natural it is, folks. You know, this is just what we'd be doing anyway.
Unfiltered.
Camera, unfiltered. Let it roll, baby.
Let it roll, baby, roll.
So do we want to do the quantitative stuff?
Well, Evan, let me ask you a question first. You walk into a Five Guys. Person behind the counter says, "I want your order to reflect your evaluation of the movie Virtuosity." and you say you look that person in the eye and you say, "All right, I'll do it." So what do you order? What do you order? What's your order?
Well, that's a complicated little game you're playing, because as we all know, at Five Guys, a cheeseburger is actually a double cheeseburger. As it should be. But if you want just a normal, what most people would refer to as a cheeseburger is actually called a little cheeseburger.
Yeah, really what it should be like is, if you don't want a double cheeseburger, you should have to say like, "I'm gay and I'm stupid." And then they're like, "Here's your single cheeseburger."
I want a small burger.
I would like a little baby burger, please. I'm a little baby boy.
Yeah, you know, they're good burgers, but that's a ripoff though. You know, you try to get a burger, like get a double, you know, burger and a fries and a soda. That's going to set you back $13. But anyway, what am I going to order?
Maybe the better one. Maybe the better one would be, okay, picture this. You're on 3 Mile Road in Racine, Wisconsin, and there's a Hardee's.
Oh God!
Oh boy, come on! This is a better movie than Hardee's.
And you ask one of your friends, "Hey, can you ride your bike to that Hardee's?" And they say, "I'll do it."
You fell off your bike and spilled the fries, and I was like mad about it. So yeah. No. I'm gonna order from Hardee's. I would like. Okay, I would take a Frisco burger.
The fuck is that?
Sourdough.
Five Guys?
No, this is at Hardee's, bro.
Oh, at Hardee's. Okay, yeah, I don't know shit about Hardee's. I'm still thinking Five Guys.
Oh, we'll go back to Five Guys then. All right, I got Five Guys. What do I want? All right,
Hardee's also known as Carl's Jr.
Yeah, but their menus are different though, right? Anyway, Five Guys. Well, you know, I'm just obviously the base rating for this movie is 4 cheeseburgers, right? So
yeah,
we'll start.
I don't know. I can't remember. Do we do 4 or 5?
Yeah, it's 4. I'm going to give it 4, and I would like a large seasoned fry and a large Diet Coke.
Mm-hmm.
That's 8 patties.
Yeah.
With everything on it except mayonnaise, of course, and
too much to come.
Now I'm worried. Now I don't want my students to see this anymore.
Well, we can.
My students are welcome to watch.
No, we can. Yeah. Well, so I'll tell a quick story here. This ties into my rating. When we worked at Meadowbrook Golf Course, like right down, I believe Highway 31 is the name of the road. Not too far away from the golf course, there was a Hardee's. What I would do on my lunch breaks there is I would drive to that Hardee's and I would get a Frisco burger and I would get the curly fries and I would get a Coke. And it was just perfect, just the right amount of food, just exactly what I needed.
There's
And
half your paycheck right there.
yeah, it was exactly. No, but I would say for this one, I'm gonna say that this is because. But then of course, Hardee's they go to the Monster Burger or whatever, and they just totally threw off the entire balance of the patty and whatnot, which just made a less enjoyable experience. But I'm talking 2003 Frisco Burger for Hardee's. Given Virtuosity 4 of those with the curly fries and a Coke. I just think the movie just delivers and it's highly enjoyable. And the Frisco burger, for in case you're wondering, it's you have the sourdough patties to go along with your beef, and you got some bacon on there as well. So it's a deluxe burger.
That is how they like it in San Francisco.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah. Well, honestly though, at the time, I knew San Francisco was all about the sourdough bread. So when they had the sourdough bread patties, I'm like,
really
yeah, what?
Is that really a thing? San Francisco and sourdough bread? I believe it. I'm unaware of it.
Yeah, that's apparently like sourdough bread's is something that San Francisco is known for. But again, maybe it's like San Francisco is known for sourdough bread the same way that Australia is known for Foster's beer, where it's like if you're in Australia, you're like Foster's is just like the worst, and if you're in San Francisco, like you hate sourdough bread. But everywhere else, it's like, oh, I'm going to go to Melbourne and I'm going to get myself a Foster's. I'm going to go to San Francisco and get myself a loaf of sourdough bread. So maybe something like that. But for the sake of our rating, though, I think it works.
Mike's story about going to Hardee's on his lunch break reminds me of a story I may have told before. When I worked at Michelson Laboratories in City of Commerce, California, and you were allowed to take an hour lunch break, but like anything after 30 minutes, you were supposed to stay that many minutes later. So I always wanted to keep my lunch break to the minimum 30 because I didn't want to have to stay a minute late when I clocked back in. And there was a Costco with the Costco food thing accessible from the exterior of the Costco about 12 minutes away, one way. And when I was really feeling frisky, I would take that 12-minute drive, pray that there would be a very short line, get the hot dog, the pizza, and the soda, immediately get back in my car because my turnaround time is like, 3 minutes. Eat it all while driving the 12 minutes back to work, slam my punch card through the fob thing, and then immediately be like, okay, guys, I'm back from lunch with like the food barely going down my throat as I like chug the soda.
That's how I go to sleep.
Yeah, and then I would be looking in a microscope, and more than once I would fall asleep with my eyes on the microscope, which no one could tell. Maybe you're just really looking carefully in the microscope.
I do like that Costco cafe.
Yeah.
Who the hell don't?
They should all be accessible from the exterior like that. I don't want to need the card to go in there. Just let me get the fucking hot dog and the pizza.
Hey, and you know what? Costco, for what you're talking about, that food court, Costco sells more hot dogs each year than all of the Major League Baseball stadiums combined.
Yeah, that's just Costco.
Yeah.
Especially now, because nobody's going to the baseball stadium.
Yeah. Well,
I pandemic joke for you guys.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So yeah, in the year 2020, we'll say 2057, people will come across this on the internet and they'll want an artifact of these times that we're living in.
Yeah, think about that. I feel like it's pretty safe to assume YouTube will outlast the three of us. Like we will die and YouTube will still exist.
Yeah.
Do you think they will still be bothering to host content from like 50 years ago? Like at what point does YouTube gonna start being like, well, no one watched it in 100 years. I guess we'll stop making it publicly searchable.
I'm gonna say yes, it's gonna be around. And the reason why is when I was in 7th grade, I made a Resident Evil 2 fan website on Angel Fire, and that website still exists.
But you're paying to have that host, the Angel Fire.
Not on Angel Fire. Angel Fire was ad funded.
Yeah. So I would think that it would still be still be
But
on
it's
there.
just so much more data. Hours of video is a lot more data than an Angel. The Angel Fire
Well,
page
that's also true. Yeah. But I don't know.
they're
Maybe,
running ads on.
It's still a good
Yeah.
question. So why would Angel Fire let that continue to take up space on their server?
Because basically that's their entire model in 2021 is people looking up their middle school websites. So they're like, fuck, it's the only thing anyone does is look at their old websites. We got to keep it up. And then because then the ads get a view. When Mike looks at his Resident Evil page, their little ad counter goes like, bing, they get like one view. They're like, yes, we paid it for the month.
I wonder
Yeah.
if the Arctic Fox's MySpace still exists.
yeah,
MySpace-
I'll send you the link to it. I mean, my page, my Resident Evil 2 page, it has 6,694 views on it. I will tell you.
That's more than the podcast, right? We should start putting the podcast on your Angel Fire Resident Evil page. Get those 6,000 people watching the podcast.
Yeah, I just want to let you know there are some. I just want to read you some of the stuff that I have on this website. And it's actually very difficult to read because my design skills at the time were very poor. So, and what I mean is the background is red and like I have blue font.
America.
Yeah, it's tough. But here's some of the stuff that I wrote. Here's my analysis of Resident Evil 2. That cop guy. So in this one, what I'm doing is I'm going over the characters in Resident Evil 2. So I have
Just like you like doing the podcast. You like to summarize the plot synopsis.
Yeah. And what they're talking about is this guy you see 2 times and turns into a zombie and should scare you. For the Resident Evil fans out there, of course, I'm referring to Marvin, who is a cop that we see at the very beginning. Let's do another one here. I'm going to say Brian Irons. Here's what I said about Brian Irons. The chief of police is 5 cans short of a 6-pack.
You heard your dad say that at breakfast that morning.
Well, no, I think that one was actually Bill Paxton from the Terminator, where because he says but I think the exact quote he has is a few cans short of a 6-pack.
Okay.
And as a quantitative guy, Mike was like, well, how many? I need to know exactly how many cans short of a 6-pack.
We'll say 5.
Yeah.
That's as many as you can go. He's 6 cans short of a 6-pack. He's just a void. He's a void space.
Well, he's one of those plastic ring things. That's something.
Killing seabirds.
That's right.
Yeah.
You guys cut yours? I don't.
I cut all my masks. Masks
Really?
are the new 6-pack things that are killing all the seabirds.
Good.
Hmm.
Get them out of here. We saw what they did in the lighthouse. Those birds are meant to be destroyed.
Don't kill my chicken.
Well, chickens,
Chickens are the good birds.
yeah, chickens are very spiritual creatures. I feel like we're drifting into the.
You just slipped into your Ahab voice.
I think I'm in the Ahab zone now.
Yeah.
The nitro's worn off. Cue the music. Yeah. Woo! Saturday Night Live, folks.
Okay, well, everybody, that concludes Mike's Movie Podcast featuring Evan, with special guest Adam. And let's do like the reverse count out. So instead of counting down, I'll count you to 5. And when I get to 5, we will stop recording, okay? 1, 2, 3.
4, 3, 2.
I can't. I'm sorry, Mike. I had to do it.